All right, let's get real. Let me just jump right in because this one, it hit different. Picture this. I'm the only black guy in a room full of high flyers, top executives at a company where the coffee is poured by someone else and the chairs cost more than a used car. I walk in, everyone's got that stiff smile, and the slang for Duran, a man whose handshake could probably crush bone if you weren't careful, just points right at me, mid-meeting, and says, "Honestly, you look like you belong hauling boxes, not building systems." Laughter. Nervous for some, real for others. Nobody stuck up for me, not a soul. They called it joke, but I knew better. You know what I mean? That's not culture. It's humiliation wrapped in hierarchy prejudice in a suit and tie. What none of them realized is I had more power in my pocket than any of them, and I didn't need to raise my voice yet. This isn't just a story about racism at work. It's about silence, strategy, and the moment when justice doesn't bother knocking, it just walks straight in. So let's get into it. 8 o'clock sharp, executive conference room, 47th floor, Arkin Industries, all that glass and polish you'd expect from a company about to pull off a $2.8 billion merger. I'd spent months rebuilding the technical framework for this deal after the last guy's system collapsed, literally kept the whole thing from falling apart. But Langford, he didn't mention any of that. First slide pops up, I start my rundown, and right away, he interrupts. "Remind me, Fane, how'd a guy like you get through our vetting process?" HR must have been feeling generous. With those shovel hands and that forehead, you don't exactly scream architect, do you? Yeah, that happened. Some folks shifted in their chairs, a cough or two. Most just avoided looking at me. Me? I just kept going, me voice steady, my eyes on the screen, not giving him the satisfaction. After the meeting, he cracks another one louder. This time, someone get that man a vest and a dolly. But he'd move shipments faster than he writes code. More laughter, more wolves in expensive suits circling for scraps. I left, didn't say a word, didn't even let myself look back. But you can't tell me nobody else in that room knew what was happening. Nobody stepped in because, in that place, the rules were written by people like Langford, and everyone else just played along. Later, back at my desk in the far corner away from the fancy executive wing, I get the email. Performance review. Room 17K. Basement. Yeah, I knew what that meant. The polite version is realignment. The truth is demotion, a shuffling out the back door. I walk in, 2 people from HR, all smiles they practiced in training videos. This is about repositioning, restructuring, future alignment. Sure it is. I signed, didn't protest. Langford upstairs, toasting the legal team, talking about clearing clutter. No one disagreed. I spent my afternoon alone in a windowless server room, stale air and the buzz of old fluorescent lights. Some called it a quiet zone. I knew it was exile. And you know what? The little things sting more than the big insults. Like when Yvonne Kepler, the strategy chief, pale, sharp, never wasted a word, walked in and said, "There's the mule. That's what we call you upstairs. Strong back, silent, always working." She called it a compliment, the way someone salts a wound. But that's how it went. The next day, the jokes weren't just whispered, they got louder. Someone photoshopped a mule head onto a picture of me and pinned it by the water cooler. Caption, "Work hard." It stayed up. Someone drew a saddle on it later. During a strategy meeting, Yvonne used beast of burden, talking about back-end work, looked straight at me. HR didn't blink. I learned a long time ago that silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the only energy you have left. But cracks were showing, and I knew it. That night, I sat in my car in the garage, hands on the wheel, not even starting the engine, just breathing, letting the humiliation pass through me like poison. The irony? The night of the big merger celebration, I wasn't even invited as a guest. I got summoned instead to assist with logistics. That's corporate for, with a black vest and serve drinks. They said it was about optics. Of course it was. There I was, adjusting microphones, carrying trays. Langford introduced me on stage as part of our exceptional facilities crew. I bowed, swallowed acid. Next morning, the press release dropped. No mention of my name. Just a blurry photo of me in the background, fixing a mic stand. A few days later, I was scheduled to present at the investors' quarterly review. I nailed every detail, slides tight, data clear. But when I stood up, Langford joked. My heart hammered, but I finished, voice cracked at the end. Feedback? Great content, but the presenter lacked charisma. Hard to follow. Voice distortion. That evening, instead of going home, I opened the file I've been building: audio, screenshots, HR memos, payroll data, demographic breakdowns. Proof. I didn't leak it. Not yet. But I had it. Soon, I noticed my login credentials were being used when I wasn't even at my desk. Someone was hacking the logs, making it look like I'd made mistakes, serious ones, errors in scripts, vulnerabilities in the system. I gathered the proof, took it to my boss, Evelyn. She barely looked at it. That's a serious accusation, she said. You better be ready to defend it. Then, cold as ice, or you can let it go. That was the threat. I encrypted everything, locked it up tight. Still, they kept pushing executive meetings about my fit, offers to transition me out. But this time I was ready. Jenna, a longtime employee everyone overlooked, handed me a folder. Inside, damning evidence. Whistleblower drafts, emails, legal reviews calling out racial bias. She looked at me and said, "You don't deserve this, and they won't get away with it." When they tried to pin a data breach on me, called me into a windowless compliance room, tried to make me sign away my access, I walked out. Took my evidence to an outside contact Jenna had given me, someone who could actually move mountains. Next morning, the company's share price froze for 13 seconds. A warning. Final day. I showed up as a visitor. Jenna handed me a badge. The air was tense. Investors from Zurich, Dubai, Singapore, all here for the big deal. Langford tried to parade me as the coffee guy behind the scenes, he said. But the lead investor cut him off. "Actually, isn't this the man who designed your optimization platform?" she asked. Langford choked. "Evelyn Leet." I didn't have to say a word. I slipped the lead investor an envelope, just enough proof to make them pause. 15 minutes later, deal postponed for legal clarification. You could see the panic ripple under Langford's smile. And then, the showdown. The investors confronted Langford. Jenna stepped up with her own folder: ethics violations, cover-ups, names, dates, everything. Evelyn tried to say it wasn't admissible. I pressed a button, a signal. Escrow withdrawn, audits triggered, all capital movement frozen. Langford crumbled. Security badges revoked, nameplate gone, forced to exit through the back. The story blew up. Headlines: corporate racism, investor deception. Executives who once laughed at Langford's jokes now pretended they barely knew him. Class action suits filed. Internal emails leaked. PR firms refused the case. Civil rights orgs got involved. Arkin's name became a punchline for everything wrong with old school power. Langford lost everything. Evelyn cut a deal, handing over recordings. Jenna became a national advocate for equity. Me? I didn't go back. I didn't want my name in their stone. I spoke at panels, worked behind the scenes. And Langford, now just Richard, showed up at community forums asking how not to make the same mistake twice. He never got redemption from Mayhay, didn't need to. Sometimes just showing up, learning, and shutting up is the best you can do. The room where I was once the joke now stands as a cautionary tale, not because I shouted, but because I refused to disappear. So, tell me, what would you have done? Drop a comment. Let's talk about justice, about the lines we cross and the ones we refuse to see. Because stories like this, they don't end. They just wait for the next person to speak up.